Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Climate Reality Project Canada's webinar. We're going to be learning today about the National Climate League, exciting new citizen-led data collection and monitoring activity on the municipal level. And so we'll first introduce everybody. I'm Winnet Smith. I'm based in Ottawa. I'm a Senior Associate and Geographer in Residence at the International Institute for Sustainable Development, and also a faculty member of the Environment and Geography Department at Bishop's University in Lennoxville. Today I have joining me Diane Beckett, who's the President of Sustainability Consulting based here in Ottawa, and a former Program Officer at UNDP, also a member of the Ottawa Climate Hub. We have Matthew Chapman joining us from Montreal, the National Campaign Coordinator of Climate Reality Project Canada, and who plays a key role in the climate hubs that I'll be telling you about in a moment. We have Kelly Quintero, who's a communications and research intern with Climate Reality Project Canada, Roland Sellinger, a research assistant with Climate Reality Project Canada, and finally, Ray Pierce, the Vice President, Research and Development, Epochal Incorporated, based here in Ottawa, and a key member of the Ottawa Climate Hub and a climate reality leader. So climate hubs are involve Canadians from across the country who have joined the hub network because they care about creating change and at the community level to address climate action, requirement for climate action. There's over 3,000 local governments in Canada, but only 4.2% of them have actually set greenhouse gas emission reduction targets, which is a pretty low number. And only 0.6 of those communities have joined the UN Compact of Mayors, and less than 0.0 and only 0.08% have committed to 100% renewable by 2050. So obviously, this is of concern for citizens who realize that we need to address the climate crisis. And the Climate Hub involves not only us, but a number of regional organizers who provide support to the 19 community hubs that have taken shape so far. We have Amy based out in Vancouver, Alicia in Edmonton, Micheline in Toronto, and Matthew in Montreal. So those supporters help the hub members with organizing, creating roadmaps, all so that we can create change and provide pressure and advocacy at the local level. There's also a national support team, which are the organizations listed at the bottom of the slide: Climate Reality Project, I Matter, Sierra Club of Quebec, for example, who provide support through developing and sharing templates and toolkits and best practices to support the citizen-led groups. So really at the core of each hub are the citizens from all walks of life committed to solving the climate crisis. And it's through building our involvement towards building support at the political leadership to create action to address climate change. And most of us you'll be hearing from today are part of those climate hubs. So the Climate Hub involves, are there to abide by three principles, or concerned with three principles: they're very local focused, citizen-led, and representing the diversity of their communities. There's a whole bunch of tools available that you can check out on climatehub.ca, including a wide range of webinars at HubFlix, partner database. There's a consultation roadmap process. And the new project we'll be learning about today is the National Climate League, which is about creating baseline and then monitoring municipal action towards reductions in greenhouse gases. So I'm going to turn it over to Diane, who's actually going to explain why benchmarking is so important. And then you'll hear from each of the other panel members on how this is going to work and some of the examples of that. So Diane, I'll turn it over to you.
You might need to unmute yourself, Diane, if you're muted.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm really excited about this project because we measure what matters. And if we don't measure something, we don't care about it. Conversely, the science shows that if we know the numbers, we're much more likely to be motivated to do something about it, and we can measure our progress in meeting our goal. The numbers in the first slide that Wynette showed were clearly demonstrated that the municipalities in Canada don't have a commitment to climate change. For instance, the one number of 4.2% of municipalities don't have a GHG reduction target, I think is really indicative. From my experience, governments are good at saying they support something, and they are often very good at developing plans to address the issue, but they too often fail in actually achieving the goal. They don't make it a priority, they don't have a roadmap to achieve it, they don't provide the human or financial resources to carry it out. And if there's no line in a city budget, there's no way that they're going to achieve it. So the failure to address climate change is one of the areas I feel where talk is cheap, where municipalities say they support it, but they really aren't doing anything substantial about it in many cases. But the numbers don't lie, and that's why I think that the project on indicators is really brilliant. It will show that the cities, what they're doing on activities that will actually address climate change and that will help us bring us closer to carbon neutrality. And it will be done on an annual basis so we can measure progress over time and ratchet up our ambitions. The very act of measuring in itself is going to improve the results. This first year is especially crucial for setting the tone for the future. And that is why I'm so glad that there's so many of you are here on this webinar. It's crucial that the Climate Reality Project hubs are successful in convincing the municipalities to provide the information so that we have the numbers. The indicators will provide a snapshot of where Canadian cities are on climate, and they're going to lay the groundwork for the year-over-year comparisons. We can use these statistics to hold the municipalities to account for their commitments. We can use them as a basis to build our campaigns and our communication strategies to engage citizens and politicians to take actions to address climate change. And by 2020, the National Climate League municipalities will compete to draw down their carbon emissions, spurred on by the climate hubs advocating for their environmental, economic, social, and health benefits of the transition. So there's no intention to rank the cities overall, but rather to provide insights into progress on the individual indicators among similar municipalities, whether they be large or small, or urban or rural. The methodology for identifying similar cities will be based on such criteria as population, climate, and economic situation. The categories are going to be developed over this winter, and they'll be continually improved thereafter.
Okay, so thank you so much, Diane. I'll speak to this slide here. Essentially, what we're aiming to do through this process is collect data that meets 4 criteria. We want to make it this whole process simple enough for citizens to be able to confidently go to their elected officials with. So we're not talking about very, erudite or complicated data, pretty relatively easy to obtain in the sense that cities are already reporting on this data, possibly, maybe not at the frequency that they should be, but the data should already be somewhere within the city's plans and reports. Second criteria is that it needs to be relatively easy to compare across cities if we're going to be benchmarking cities one to the other. And that comes back to Diane's point about the like or the similar cities. So the methodology for that will be developed as we move forward, and this is the beta process that we're in right now. The first one will be coming later, and I believe Roland and Kelly will be addressing that. Thirdly, third criteria is the high correlation, of this data, of the metrics to emissions reductions. And finally, the metric itself has to be of concern to a diversity of citizens. It's important that we're not just choosing metrics that a small population or a small subset of the environmental community, for example, will take to heart, but rather some things that are they impact a large number of individuals. For example, air pollution, as you can see there from the infographic. So the 15 beta metrics that we're proposing for cities to collect are on the economy, waste management, responsible consumption, transportation, urban planning, public security, public health, buildings, finance, and housing. They are all available at climatehub.ca in the benchmarking section, so I won't belabor the point into looking at each one of them now. But you will, by the end of the webinar, know how to go about asking your public officials how to, in order to submit those metrics to our database. Finally, the secret weapon, which I think really sets this initiative apart from others that are similar. There's really nothing like the National Climate League in the process, in the mapping that we've conducted. And frequently, as you can see in the bottom half of this graph, very few people are involved in the collection of data, in the analysis of data, in the reporting of data. And what that means, it's a very ineffective political tool, or it's of limited effectiveness. And that's, I surmise, one of the reasons that many of these, or a number of these, have stopped being published, is because they weren't seeing the results that they wanted to, weren't seeing the real change in policy from the benchmarking processes themselves. So what we're proposing is engaging a large number of people in the collection and in the like getting their hands dirty in the process of saying, where are these numbers? Why can't we find them? What are the challenges to producing them? Is it Statistics Canada that needs to move faster? Is it this government agency that moves faster? Is it the private sector that needs to deliver its data on a more regular basis? So understanding, as citizens engage with their elected officials to obtain this data, understanding the challenges and the hurdles can help both citizens understand the complexities of governance, and can help elected officials move faster and allocate resources in order to get those numbers, because they know that there's a group of citizens behind them, and not just a sliver of the population, but rather a diversity of the citizens that care about these broad-based metrics. So the second axis here, the horizontal axis, being the target audience. Are these benchmarking initiatives targeting decision makers and policymakers who need the technical details, or are those benchmarking metrics targeting the general public? And ours not only engages the general public in producing those metrics, but also the purpose of the metrics is to educate the general public. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Roland and Kelly.
Thank you, Matt. Yeah, Kelly and I are just going to give a brief run through of the process that hubs will go through to benchmark their cities. Before doing that, I just want to make clear that if there's anybody listening who hasn't already been familiarized with the campaign website, climatehub.ca, definitely go check that out. We have all the resources that we'll mention for the rest of the webinar up there. So naturally, we have to begin somewhere, and that's either starting your own or joining a climate hub, if there is one in your hometown municipality. And after doing so, establishing member roles. And there are ways in which you can do that might benefit the hub specifically, or you may feel as though you would need some more guidance. Should that be the case, Climate Reality has proposed a series of roles that we believe warrant effective change and proper collaboration. So following that process, it's important to familiarize yourself with your peers and have clear what roles will be defined for whom.
Well, then as the roles are established, then it is time to throw the data captain in the benchmarking process. It is important for the data captain to understand the purpose and the process of the benchmarking effort. To that end, this webinar and the one-page benchmarking roadmap will be available starting today in the benchmarking section of climatehub.ca. As Roland just mentioned, is the website of the initiative. And today we will look into the necessary steps to gather the information. What are we aiming for with this benchmarking exercise, and what are the deadlines?
So part of that is making sure that your outreach captain has an effective strategy in rallying diverse stakeholders to use the templates that that Climate Reality has put together and borrowed from other organizations to be able to request this data. And this could range anywhere from a regular series of phone calls towards your municipal officials, a series of emails, establishing that line of communication so that there is a member within the hub that is familiar with this process, and so that there's a familiar face towards the people that will be making the decisions down the line.
Okay, then the fourth step that we're just watching on the screen is to collect the metrics by asking elected officials politely yet persistently to provide them. Considering the nature of the information we're looking for, relatively accessible data, often published in official reports, an individual could conceivably collect this data on their own. This is in part why most benchmarking initiatives have limited impact. As the HAWTHORNE effect implies, the more people involved and aware that measurement is taking place, the more impact it will have. Getting this information directly from people involved with the local government builds relationships between them and hub members, raising both public awareness and then official engagement with the initiative.
And of course, to solidify this impact, we have to look at deadlines, because it's important for public officials to understand that you, as well as they, are operating on their own timelines. And to have an alignment is to have effective change. So the date that we are proposing to submit the data by is March 30th of 2018. And there are links on the website that you can consult to understand how this data submission process can be undergone.
Then the sixth step will be sharing results of report, and the communications captain should be supported by Hub's member in sharing the results of the report. Once published on April 22nd, a template will be provided by Climate Reality Canada for Hubs to use it and adapt it. Also, a list of free online tools to develop infographics and short videos will be shared on Airtable for everyone to choose what fits better in order to graphically communicate the information gathered during the benchmarking exercise. Then you are encouraged to share those results with the general public, as it will first strengthen the idea of how necessary and convenient is the community and city engagement in the political process to achieve progress. Second, show the benefits and urgency of implementing reducing emissions initiatives in every level, and of course, third, keep track of how the city is doing. Keep in mind that since the metrics were chosen based on their impact on citizens' everyday lives, they will be more eagerly shared.
Climate Reality and the National Support Team will try to publish the National Climate League standings on a regular and more effective basis. That will then compare the progress in several events and policy areas, such as transportation efficiency, that won't necessarily seek to rank municipalities across Canada and name an overall winner, so much as to provide an overall picture of the emission scenarios in each municipality and where key areas are that public officials might not be taking the necessary action on. And it's important to understand that this is a process not to vilify, as it is far more productive to work with public officials from the grassroots to go towards solutions-oriented futures.
And then we have the last but not least step, and it is provide feedback on the entire process. As we are in a beta stage, this last step is very important to prepare for the first full report due to December 2008 during the COP24. We will need your feedback on the entire process by May 15 to refine metrics and recalibrate the data collection process. You will be able to enter information in the form shared through Slack on the 14th of January. And once into that form, you can as well access the feedback that we've already received from other hub members. Then those are the 8 steps to accomplish this challenge of benchmarking cities in Canada.
Thank you very much, Roland and Kelly. I'm going to pass it off now to Ray, who's going to be taking the screen and sharing with us the exactly how, as a municipal, we will have people participating in the process.
Okay, thanks, Matthew. First, I just want to confirm, can you see my screen?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, so here we are at the climatehub.ca website. And as Roland and Kelly mentioned, in steps 4 and 5, the hubs have initiated contact with municipalities and are asking for them to enter data for hub benchmarking. Where they need to go is this benchmarking link here on the website. It quickly scrolls you down to the benchmarking area where you can access the area to submit your data. Now, municipal officials have a choice of 2 methods. So they can submit metrics one at a time using a form, which I'll show you in a moment. Or if they are prepared to enter several at a time, it might be easier for them to use a worksheet format that is submitted on a batch mode. So first of all, let's take a look at the metrics themselves. They're hosted on an application called Airtable. And we have the indicator names themselves, a description of the indicator, and they're also grouped by some categories that it might be useful if someone is coming in here. They can group by category. I actually find this a good way to look at these. And so you can see that there are actually 2 indicators that are grouped in economy. Presently, a number of the categories have single indicators, etc. So this is a static view of the list of the indicators. If we go back to the website and click on the form, we get this. And there are various links here to some explanatory information, which is would be redundant to cover at this point. So this is where the action is, and you can you need to pick a what municipality you're entering for, your name and title, a professional email address, and these email addresses are going to be used for follow-up validation by the hubs or by the national team to ensure the integrity of the data that's being entered. And then there's choosing the indicator itself. So this is where that other list I was showing comes in handy. The form that we were just on, when you click on this button to select one of the indicators, the descriptions in this interface don't appear. So you kind of want to have a look and an idea beforehand what indicator that you're interested in before you get to this individual form. Now I have a form here already that I had begun filling in. I just want to click on that to save a bit of time. So I am not a municipal official, but for this webinar I will be. And let's pretend I'm the waste manager of the Ottawa Trail Road facility here. I've entered my email, landfill waste. What year am I reporting for? 2015 is the number I have in mind right now. And some of the indicators are yes or no. That would be the entry here. In this case, it's kilograms of waste that has been put into the facility. And that in kilograms actually is on the order of 200 million kilograms. Going to come down here to kilograms. And then there's also room here for someone to put in a source link. Perhaps if the report is already online somewhere, they could put a link to it, a public link here. And perhaps there's some comments or queries that they'd like to add, and then hit submit. Now, if you go back, we'll have a look where that goes in a moment. This gives you the opportunity to provide, go back and do another response, as well as look at where the data has gone. And but first, let me show you the other method of putting in data. So if you're going to be doing it by batch, you can click on a worksheet. This is natively, it's an Excel file, but you can also open it in Google Sheets, which I have one open here if this is going to be slow. Yeah, so I'm going to click over here to the one that I already have open, so we're not wasting time. So the cover page of this, again, is asking for similar information: the municipality, the name of the municipal employee, the title, etc. And now here is the entire list of indicators. This allows people to enter data for multiple years in an easy fashion, or if they are, say, from a transportation department, they may want to answer all the transportation related indicator questions all at once. And then this spreadsheet is submitted to the national team, and then the data will make its way into the Airtable where the data is hosted. So those are the two methods for entering data for municipal officials. Now, a data captain who wants to check on how the data is flowing in, how many metrics are in now, how many more are remaining to be entered, they can click here. So submit, view submitted data here. This is also hosted on Airtable, but it's a different view of the metrics that have already been added to the database. Just taking a moment to load. Okay, so you've seen some of the other, you see here some of the other test entries that have been made so far. Here's the landfill waste one that I just made. And once this begins to populate with many entries, a particular city may want to just filter by their own city, just so they can get to what they really want to look at. We'll also be able to group them by indicator and metric, by year, etc. So this is the base data that's going to be used at some point to develop infographics once we have more data to work with. one more thing, I just want to go back to this spreadsheet. So we looked at the nameplate, the indicator list. You'll notice that a number of these indicators, well, none of them on the front page here are by population or land area. That's going to be handled separately, and the Climate Reality will take care of populating these with accurate data. And then there will be a formula-based version of the spreadsheet that will give us the various metrics on a per capita basis, or if it's more reasonable, then they would give it on a per land area basis. And then eventually those are likely the statistics that would make it into some type of infographic or comparative presentation. So Matt, I'll hand it back to you.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Ray. Ray did a great job. I would like to mention going through a much more exhaustive list of metrics prior to us simplifying things a little bit. So he and the Ottawa team there did a great job sifting through a whole bunch of city reports. And what we realized is if we asked our hubs to do that, to go find the data in the city reports, digging through publications, then the key piece of the puzzle, which is getting elected officials aware that people are looking at these numbers, getting city officials aware that people are looking at these numbers, and getting citizens aware that each other are asking for these numbers. So, reaching out into the cycling advocacy community and saying, hey, can you ask all of your cycling advocacy folks to demand this cycling advocacy number from City Hall? Here's a template email that you can send today to your city councillor. That's going to change the game when it comes to how many people think they're being measured, and going back to the Hawthorne effect, the impact that's going to have. So really quickly, running this down, it's also available. All of the information that you've seen today is available in what's called the National Climate League roadmap, which is on climatehub.ca in the benchmarking section. So between now and March 30th, our job is to ask as many elected officials as possible to submit city data. And so the elected official isn't going to go digging through the reports himself. It's going to say, transfer the email to my director of transportation. That person or somebody in his staff or her staff is going to fill in that form that Ray just demonstrated. And so that's our job in the next 9 or 10 weeks. On April 22nd, we're going to be putting together kind of a beta report, as we mentioned, the National Climate League report, and that'll be predominantly for internal use, for learning purposes. We're not going to broadcast that into the media or anything like that. This is really a beta and a preliminary run at this to see how it goes, to see what benchmarking numbers need to be revised, changed, trashed, replaced. Next, we're going to take all that feedback we get from you. So when city officials, or when elected officials, or when hub members, or when members at large of the population say, that number doesn't make sense. I'm an expert in this very specific field, and it would be better if you measured it in such and such a way. All that feedback that comes in through those feedback forms, I don't think we mentioned them, but where Ray was clicking around underneath the infographics on the website climatehub.ca. There's also a link there to provide this feedback. So this feedback is very important. We're going to be analyzing it in the springtime, and then in August, relaunching the data collection process. And that just means resending the message saying any data that you didn't submit the first time, we're going to try to fill in all those gaps, fill in the gaps that we weren't able to get in the first 2 months. And by that point also, we'll probably have additional hubs onboarded and participating in the process. So that's for that. And then in December, of course, as Kelly mentioned, during COP24, we'll be publishing our first public report of the benchmarking process. And that'll, for the first time, give us a snapshot of where cities in Canada are on climate action, which is going to be very, very exciting, and importantly, citizen-driven, citizen science, citizen-led, it's really important that we get as many people participating in that aspect as possible. So, of course, the feedback form. So that's that. thank you very much. I'm going to hand it off to Winnet for any questions that we might have. And let me see if I can. I don't believe I can continue sharing my screen with that question slide at the same time. So leave it there for now. And Winnet, is there anyone on our panel that wants to offer a question while we're waiting for them to flow in from our viewers?
Well, first, I'd like to just say thank you to our panel members today, Diane, Matthew, Kelly, Ray, and Roland, for giving us an overview of the project. I think it's very exciting. I agree with Diane. What doesn't measure doesn't count so much, and we really need to have these metrics at our fingertips and reminding our municipal councillors that citizens care about these issues and helping to educate our fellow citizens too about these issues. So did any of you have questions for each other while we wait for, see if anyone has any? I think one thing maybe just to point out, as you've all already indicated, there's a great website, climatehub.ca, which has all of this information. So if you have questions, you can go and look at materials that you've been introduced to here. And there's also a email address where you can follow up and you'll get responses from members of the core team. If you have questions about how it actually will work, so there you go, contact@climatehub.ca, so that none of us are alone in this important initiative, that there's lots of resources, both material online as well as people to help give you direction and guidance as we move forward in testing out this project, the benchmarking project.
Terrific. And for that,
Matthew, I don't know if you want to mention that we have a Slack group specifically on benchmarking that we can monitor as it.
Indeed, and anybody that signed to join the Hub campaign at climatehub.ca, there's a little button that says I'm in. You click that, and after you fill in that form, you'll be invited to join the Slack group where discussion is ongoing about solutions in our respective cities and solutions across the country.
Okay, can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Okay, it's Angela from Ottawa. So in the process that you walked us through, it was the municipal official that was filling in the form. Now, usually in terms of the people and the relationships, if I ask my councillor, okay, I would like to know the following information, then usually the councillor would pass it on to them, then they would pass it back to the councillor, and then the councillor passes it back to me. So are there templates which kind of say, please flow the information in two directions, or how would it work for people in our network that we've asked, like to ask their councillors?
Yeah, Ray or Matthew, do you want to maybe address that one? But anyone feel free to.
Yeah, I'm happy to. So this document you can find on the website, Angela, and within this document, in that step that you described, use these templates to ask elected officials to submit these metrics. That's the step number 4 that that you're referring to. And we do have, email templates that they can send off. And basically what it says in that template, it asks the question, and if a positive response is received, if the elected official says, yes, okay, this makes sense, we'd be happy to, then there's a second template to send to say, thank you very much. Here is where to enter the data. So instead of requesting the data be sent directly back to you, and there's 2 reasons we do this. One is so that we get those elected officials involved, and we get those public servants involved. And the second is to really validate. So building the relationship is number 1, and validating the data is number 2. So it's important that we're able, to the best of our ability as a relatively small organization operating at a national level, have some assurances that the numbers submitted aren't just kind of random coming out of people's imaginations.
Okay, so in terms of timing, if I use my network of community associations and I have 10 different people ask for the 10 same metrics to their city councillor, then they at varying speeds will then send that question to, say, varying parts of the transportation department of the city, and then they'll figure it out from there. That's the idea.
The worst possible scenario, the worst possible scenario would be that only one person sends it to one elected official, that sends it to one public servant, and you get one data submission. That would be just one step worse than no submission whatsoever. What we want, let me be clear, is as many people asking for these numbers as possible, for the city to wonder why all of a sudden people are caring about these things. Why is it that everybody wants to see these things improve? That's what we want. So if it seems like it's coming from a diversity of civil society organizations from all directions, from Uncle Joe and Aunt Shirley and Cousin Rick, then that's on purpose. That's okay. We're going to get the data, which is great, and the city is going to realize that, wow, okay, there are a whole bunch of people that are looking for this information.
Okay.
So with that, we will conclude our webinar. Thank you all for being with us, and thanks for those that were able to join us live today. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to sharing this recording, which is now going to be on climatehub.ca, with everybody that wasn't able to make it here with us. And I want to put a special thank you to Roland, who for right now in Madrid, it is almost midnight, I think, right? So thanks so much for jumping on the webinar with us, Roland. And thanks all who participated in presenting this information today. Have yourselves a wonderful Sunday evening, and look forward to collaborating the coming year.
Thank you.
Thank you.